Welcome back everyone to the channel. So in today's video we'll be building a simple full stack shopping cart using React and Express plus Stripe for the backend. So the main purpose of this project is how can you include or how can we include Stripe in any React.js projects and how to do it straightforward without any errors, without any complications. So here we have the first thing I want to display first, the backend, which is already built. It's a pretty simple one, nothing special about it. Server.js file. So we have here, we set up, of course, simple Express server with CORS and JSON middleware. We have also the create checkout session, which is an endpoint that takes the cart from the front end and formats it for Stripe. And then, of course, we have we create the Stripe checkout session, and that returns the session URL back to the client, and of course the port, which is 5000. Pretty easy, pretty straightforward. Do not forget the API key. You will get the API key once you make an account. You have to put your secret key and not the public key here. So this is a pretty straightforward backend, nothing special about it and nothing hard. Of course, you can just play with these. It really depends on your needings, but this is a very simple one. So next, we will move to the frontend part, which is made by React. It's very easy, nothing special about this. A very basic website with a couple of products here for testing. If I choose some products here, it will be saved in the cart. Of course, it's set it in the local storage. I use local storage, something very easy to do. And we have a checkout button here, which of course doesn't work. We have can update the quantities. Of course, here the total is of course updated. And yeah, very simple one, nothing special about it, because our main issue here is how can we include or how can we link the backend right now with our front end. So it's very easy and nothing special about this. So what we can do now is we will be developing a function called handle checkout, which will handle the payment session of Stripe in our front end. So we write const handle checkout. It must be anything function here, and let's open this. And okay, what we have to do later. So the first thing to do is we have to define, or we have to send a post request to our backend server, which is localhost 5000 create checkout session, the one I showed you earlier. Then we'll be using fetch API to make the request. You can use access, whatever you want. And then we will do in a way that pauses the function until the response is received from the server. We'll also use the method post, of course. The headers is JSON as usual, and the body is JSON stringify, and of course we have to pass the cart. And so how can we translate this? Very easy. It will take a couple of lines. So let's define response, which is, as I said, we'll be using fetch. You can use Axios, whatever you want. So make sure to not make any typos here, otherwise you will get an error later. So 5000, and I think create checkout session like this. And then later we'll pass some parameters here. As I said, we'll be using post, of course. Post. The headers, it's JSON. Thank you, VS Code, for the autocomplete. And the body is JSON stringify.card. And of course, the autocomplete is doing the job, but I don't want to abuse the autocomplete. And what else? What's next? So we have to define the data, of course. We have await response.json here. And of course, window.location.href equals data.url. And this is the complete front-end function that will do the whole job. But let me explain the last lines, because so we have, after defining the doing the fetch request, etc., the next step is we define the data. So once the server responds, this line parses the response as JSON. So data will contain an object returned from your backend, specifically an URL like checkout.stripe.com, blah, 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 etc. And then the last line, which is window.location.href. What is this exactly? So this line redirects the user to the URL provided by Stripe. So if you don't put this, you won't be redirected because it's not something that you'll have to build. It's already included in the Stripe, and this is the magic with Stripe. So what you have to do is you have to redirect the user to the URL provided by Stripe because it's a secure payment page where they can, or where you can complete your purchase. If you don't do this, it won't work, of course. So, and then window.location.href is used to change the page, just like clicking a link. So nothing, this is how I explained. And here, I don't know why. Okay, so here I think everything is clear, it's very easy. And the last part is we have to call that function in our button here, which is checkout. So as you know, I'm pretty sure you know this, on click handle checkout, some formatting, and that's all. That's all for this function, and it's supposed to work because there's nothing magic about it. Let's refresh the page. Of course, you have the documentation. You can just play with it. You can have a lot of resources here. You can also customize it the way you want. So let's choose some products here, increase this, and if I type checkout, it's supposed to work. So if I type checkout, we are redirected to the Stripe payment session, which is what we wanted. It's a secure payment session. That's why it's very important to do this line. As I said, it's very important. Otherwise, it won't work. So we have here the total, what we ordered, the quantity, and of course you can get some demo or sandbox accounts here, some demo data to like play with it. And that's all for this payment session. I hope you learned something new, and I hope it's straightforward. The code, I hope the code is straightforward, nothing weird about it. This is very simple function, even though I could have made this very specific and standard and much more better. I hope the backend is also well explained, even though there is nothing, if you have some basic in Express, Node.js, there is nothing special about this. It's a basic backend, nothing complicated. You can reuse it the way you want. So I hope you learned something new today, and see you in the next video.